For the last 250 years, America has been seen as a pinnacle of freedom throughout the world. How could a country like America lose its freedoms? Have you noticed how much the world has changed in the last 10 years, or even the last 5? We are in a rapid phase of change. If you're shocked by the last 10, you will be dumbstruck by what is coming in the next 10 years. With advances of technology, especially AI, we will see a completely different world. I want to welcome you to this video titled, "The Chinese Social Credit System is Coming West." My name is Eric Mueter. My father and I have been educating people about the surveillance state for the last decade. I'm an expert in what's going on, and I want to make a clear distinction now. Before we get into this topic, this is a heavy topic. It is dark and it is scary. I constantly have to work to stay in balance when focusing on this stuff because, like I said, it's heavy. So when you watch this series, I want to ask two things from you. First of all, understand what I'm talking about is a plan and not a reality yet. Awareness is key. And two, do not fear. Out of all tools employed by power seekers, fear is the strongest. Fear makes you hopeless, fear makes you surrender your power and give up. To stop this from happening, be strong, be aware, and love liberty. Alright, with that out of the way, let's get into it. In the last 5 years, we've seen some of the most brazen attacks on freedom in recent history. In 2020, countries all over the world went on lockdown, forced people to get vaccinated, or else they would lose their jobs, and even set up vaccine passports to prevent people from traveling. In 2022, we saw Justin Trudeau freeze bank accounts of peaceful protesters. Tyrant Trudeau played his hand too soon and showed the world what power seekers plan to use central bank digital currencies for. In 2024, England began arresting people for tweets on social media. They arrested people for hate speech, or in other words, anything that the government deemed was not okay to talk about. Freedom of speech has been eviscerated in the UK. Not only are they arresting people for tweets, but they are bragging about it online. And while this may seem crazy, this is just the tip of the iceberg and a slight glimpse into the world of social credit systems. So, what is the Chinese social credit system? The Chinese social credit system is in place right now in China. It's not a theory, it's not fantasy, it's in place right now. It's a system of total surveillance combined with very sophisticated artificial intelligence that monitors everything that people do. It rewards people for doing things that the government wants them to do, and it punishes people for doing things that the government doesn't want them to do. And sure, I've heard many people say, oh, that sounds like a good idea. Good people are rewarded and bad people are punished. But that's not how it works. Good people and bad people are not defined by the government. It's not about rewarding people who help old ladies cross the street. It's about destroying opposition or any propaganda against them. And more than that, with this system, the Chinese government is able to control everyone and make them do exactly what they want them to do. I've heard people say before, oh, I'm not a criminal, what do I have to worry about? Well, that's easy to say in the most free time in modern history. That is a statement of naivety. Criminal is a term that is defined by the ruling party. The term criminal today is different than the term in Nazi Germany, or Soviet Russia, or Communist China. Your definition of criminal is not the same as a power-hungry tyrant's definition of criminal. A social credit system is technological slavery. And I'm not saying that to be dramatic, it's literally slavery. This system already exists right now in China, and it is frighteningly effective. They're not afraid to admit that they're using it, and they want to shape and mold the Chinese people into the perfect tool for the government. Chinese people are learning that there will be no dissent, there will be no challenging the power of the Chinese Communist Party, because the Chinese government wields the most powerful social control mechanism ever created. So powerful that the political and financial leaders in the West see this level of control that the Chinese have over their people, and they want that same level of control. The elite want to enslave us. But how could that happen in the West, where we the people care about freedom and individuality? That's exactly why they have been so careful to roll out this system slowly and deceptively. And before I get into how they've done that, I want to take a deep dive into the social credit system and how it actually works. At the heart of any social credit system is surveillance. And I mean total surveillance at a level that has never before been possible without modern technology. In China, they have cameras everywhere. They have over 200 million cameras, and this number is growing every day. These cameras are not dumb cameras either. They are so smart that they collect facial recognition and body movement recognition of everyone. And if 200 million isn't scary enough for you, of course everyone is carrying a phone in their back pocket. Their phone is one of the biggest surveillance tools of the government. And think about it, your phone has a camera with facial recognition, and has microphones and also GPS. It knows who you talk to, what you search, what websites you visit, what you read, how much money you have, and where you spend it. It goes even further than that too. With the level of technology now, the cameras on your phone can actually watch your eye movement to make sure that you're actually reading the text on your screen. And it can read your facial features and pupil dilation to determine your emotional reaction to what you're reading and seeing. It has a perfect profile on you. Their end goal is to know everything about every person in real time. And I'm sure you've heard of the saying, information is power, right? Well, with total surveillance and artificial intelligence, they have more information than any country has ever had on its people. I'm not surprised that China is the first country to release a social credit system. Mao's identity politics are a clear predecessor. So here's a very important point. If a country or company has information about you, they have power over you. So now we're talking about almost total information on every person in society. This is tremendous power. Think about it. If they can hold your money in a central bank digital currency, and they constantly know where you are, who you associate with, and can predict what you believe about almost anything based off of all of your information that they gather on you, you become powerless to them. So you might wonder, what will they do with this power? Of course, they will do what every other power seeker has done throughout human history. They will use it to control people in order to protect their power. Let me show you how this is done in China. In China, you receive a social credit score, and everything you do affects this score. You get rewarded for living your life in a way that the government wants you to live, and you get penalized if you go against their wishes. At a very basic level, it's just like our financial credit score in the US, and soon a carbon score. If you get a loan and you do a good job paying off the loan, you get a high score. If you miss your payments, you get a low score. If you default on a loan or go bankrupt, you get a big hit to your score. This all sounds familiar, right? But the Chinese social credit system goes far beyond just tracking finances. Let's take a look at some examples of how they might judge you. So for example, maybe if you watch news from state media, you'll get rewarded. Or maybe if you drive responsibly, you'll get rewarded. Or maybe if you speak highly of the government on social media, or maybe donate to colleges, or maybe you report one of your neighbors who's acting poorly, all of those things would gain points towards your credit score. So how do you get rewarded if you have a high social credit score in China? Well, they have all different kinds of rewards for you. Maybe you'll get access to express lines at stores. Plane and train tickets are cheaper. At airports, you can sit in special lounges. Maybe you get to board the planes first. You can get upgraded to the best seats. You can get a loan to start a business or to buy homes and cars with no money down with the best loan terms possible. You get preference in promotions, you get better jobs, and you can even work for the government, which in China is the best job you can get. You can get your kids into the best schools, and you can even get on the best dating websites. So it's really desirable to get a high social credit score. Your life becomes much better, and you get a lot of respect and prestige for the community. Now let's take a look at the other side. If you read alternative news that goes against the state media, you will be punished. Or if you spend too much money on entertainment like video games, casinos, or alcohol, you'll be punished. Or if you spend too much time on social media, you'll be punished. These are just a small fraction of things that will lose you points, but they're also serious offenses that will result in severe penalties, like donating to a cause that the government doesn't like, or complaining about something that the government does wrong, or if you remind someone about the Tiananmen Square massacre, or if you associate with someone with a low score. And if your score falls too low, you will have to attend lectures and re-education to learn how to get your score back up. You will have visits from government officials. Your career will suffer. You may not get hired, and you may even get fired from your current career. Your internet speed will be throttled. You won't be able to stay in the best hotels. You won't be able to rent a good apartment. And of course, it'll be harder to get loans, and you can't get accepted into the best schools. And don't forget, your ability to leave is taken away from you as well. First, they'll take away planes, then trains, then cars, all the way down to a house arrest. In 2019, 23 million people were banned from flying in China due to their low social credit score. This is because those people were blacklisted, which means that their score was so low that they're severely punished. And when someone has that low of a score, their children and loved ones are punished as well. Remember, this is all about control, and the power seekers are power-crazy psychopaths that have no empathy. So let's say your friend is blacklisted and you call him on the phone. Before the phone connects, you'll get a message saying something like, "Be aware that the person you're calling has been blacklisted. If you continue this call, you will receive marks against you. Are you sure you want to complete this call?" So, blacklisted people get ostracized. They become social pariahs. And if you become blacklisted, you will lose all of your friends and even your family. Because if they associate with you, they will get hurt. The goal of the Chinese social credit system is to isolate people who disobey the government. If you are blacklisted, you are isolated geographically because you cannot use planes, buses, or trains. You're isolated financially because you can get fired from your job and prevented from ever being hired again. You will lose government assistance and the ability to take out loans. And with a CBDC in place, your entire net worth can be instantly deleted or seized. And finally, you'll be isolated socially. No one will want to talk to you, you'll be deemed untrustworthy, and if people associate with you, they'll be punished too. It's like you're a contagious leper. And I know what you're thinking, there's no way that this will ever come to the West. It's hard to believe. I know, in the West we value individuality, freedom, and sovereignty. The rulers of the West would never be able to enforce such blatant slavery to us, right? Well, the pieces are in place and it's happening right now. And it can only work in one way, through deceit. It's coming in the name of greater good arguments. The globalists understand that we are loving and accepting people, and they're trying to take advantage of that. What would it be like to have someone watching and judging you at all times? It seems impossible, right? I mean, since the early 2000s when the Patriot Act came into place, we knew that we were being spied on. But come on, it's not like there was a room of 1 million NSA agents listening to everyone on a phone call, reading every text, and watching your location at all times. That's impossible, and that's also why it's so hard to conceptualize what's really going on. You might think that the tiny black brick in your pocket is just a device for utility. But all modern smart devices, computers, phones, and even cars are Trojan horses designed specifically to gather as much information on you as possible. And like I said, humans are not directly spying on you. It's even worse. It's a never blinking, always watching, always learning AI system. AI is the backbone of the surveillance system, and that is exactly why AI has been so heavily funded. They have succeeded in creating a system that gathers a ridiculous amount of information. Now, they needed something that would analyze and assess everything it collected. And boom, just like that, AI was being pushed into the mainstream with hundreds of billions, if not trillions of dollars being pumped into its funding. One of the easiest ways to track technology growth is to look at it from a military perspective. Military is the leading cause for great innovation. That's because military is directly related to power games. Once the internet came around, we entered a new age, an information age. And with that, wars changed. We have shifted into information-based wars. Big tech corporations have a hidden agenda. They're not just techie people creating solutions for modern problems. Big tech companies have entered the world in the guise of free market, when in reality, they are a wing of the government. Even Google received research grants from the CIA and NSA at its inception. Now the government is able to sidestep our constitution by purchasing data collected by private corporations, a private-public partnership that has allowed the government to spy on its people. We have unknowingly locked ourselves into a walled garden of surveillance technology that is designed to enslave us. And that's a bold claim, I know, but after years of studying this topic, I have found it to be true. Many people think that a digital ID is just a digital version of their driver's license. To them, they think it's nothing more than added convenience. That is exactly what globalists want you to think. The truth is, with a digital ID in place, not only will you be tracked for everything that you do, you will also be profiled and punished for it. I consider the digital ID the mark of the beast. Here's a text from Revelations that summarizes it very well. It forced all people, small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, to have a mark on their right hand or forehead. Without the mark of the name of the beast or the number of its name, it was impossible to buy or sell anything. This is spot on. A digital ID will be used to force everyone to comply blindly to the government wishes, and without one, you will be punished like a dog. The globalists have already succeeded in slowly embedding our lives in a big tech web. They have used a powerful method of selling the products as a reward, and people have fell for their marketing tactics. Now you can have a car that drives itself. That way you can always be a passenger. Now you can have an AI that watches everything you do. That way it can be your assistant. Now you can have digital payments. That way you can transact easier. Not only are they good at marketing, but they're good at actually making useful tools. These tools at first glance are very powerful. This makes it even harder to see them for what they really are. To get people into their system, first they show the reward. After the reward period is over, then comes the teeth for anyone who refuses their new standard of life. If you fail to adopt their systems, you will be left behind. And when I say left behind, I don't mean the difference of having an iPhone 12 versus an iPhone 16. I'm talking about a serious punishment. Eventually, you'll not be able to file taxes without a digital ID. And if you do not comply, you'll be punished with tax evasion and you might even go to prison. Or maybe they will prevent you from going to see doctors or even getting a driver's license at all. And with modern cars, you may not even be able to start a car without verifying your identity. The goal of power seekers is to make you as dependent on their system as possible. Smart technology is not about convenience, it's about control. They will say whatever they can to get you to believe that their system of control is in your best interest. One of the biggest ways that they've accomplished this is by being very sneaky. As I said before, all of these solutions are part of the free market that are designed to make life better and more convenient. But most people do not stop and use critical thinking skills to understand what could be really going on. So much so that we all actively purchase devices that we bring with us at all times that have microphones, cameras, and GPS devices inside of them. We are trained to like and comment on social medias and connect every aspect of our lives to the internet. Most people are completely unaware of what's going on. The same is true of digital IDs. One of the most common excuses I hear for digital IDs is that digital IDs are necessary to keep children off of social media or porn websites. This is low-hanging fruit because everyone wants children off of these toxic websites. Who would argue against that? But the key is, you have to ask yourselves, do these politicians actually care about your kids? Just mere years ago, they were declaring parents who disagreed with porn in school libraries as domestic terrorists. Now they're saying that they want to protect your children from porn. I don't buy it. I've also heard people talk about the convenience of having all of your files in one place. Wouldn't it be nice to never show an ID because there's a camera mounted everywhere that constantly identifies you? No, not in my world. Some people also talk about the importance of a digital ID when it comes to preventing voter fraud, which once again makes sense. Like I said, they're not going to come up with dumb, unbelievable excuses. The things they will say will actually make sense. We just have to be wise enough to see through their words and understand the true reason that they're trying to set up a digital ID. They will look for any means to an end to get this system in place. And no, they won't clamp their teeth down instantly. They will pass it piece by piece. It's just like the idea that G. Edward Griffin mentioned in his book, The Creature from Jekyll Island. When the power seekers like J.P. Morgan, Paul Warburg, and Frank Vanderlip came together to create the Federal Reserve, they knew that the first step in creating the Fed was just getting it up and running. It was not the scam behemoth that it is today, and that's because over years it has slowly twisted its definitions and rules until it became this hulking amalgamation that is now the source of almost all corruption today. So why am I bringing this up? Well, whatever excuse they use, whatever greater good arguments they say, it'll all be a means to an end to them. They will say whatever it takes to get you behind a digital ID. They pray that you do not think deeply about the implication of what a digital ID really means for your future. A digital ID is one of the final keys to putting a Chinese social credit system in the West. We've already seen how Trudeau illegally froze the bank accounts of peaceful protesters in Canada. We've already seen how the UK has locked up its civilians for jokes and anti-immigration comments online. And we've all seen how many people blindly follow government regulations during the COVID lockdowns. And while this might sound awful, this is nothing compared to the future. These are all slight tells of what a future of digital slavery looks like. A future where people get blindly punished. A future of no privacy or fair trial. Where people will be constantly surveilled and instantly punished. This is the future that globalists are planning on. They have put all of their eggs into this basket. It's exactly what every power seeker desires. They want power and they want information. The Britannica Dictionary defines totalitarianism as a form of government that theoretically permits no individual freedom and that seeks to subordinate all aspects of individual life to the authority of the state. And I want you to notice key words here. Subordinate all aspects of individual life to the authority of the state. How would this be possible? Only with a surveillance state that actively gathers everything about you. Only with AI that can watch and analyze you at all times. This is not normal tyranny. This is the end goal of any tyrant. Imagine if Hitler or Mussolini or Stalin or Mao had this level of surveillance. All opposition would be squashed like bugs. Simply put, a digital ID is a tool that will identify everything you do, tie it to your profile, and judge you based off of your every move. It's not just a digital driver's license. This is a very scary topic. To be honest, I can't think of much scarier topics. It's like something out of a dystopian sci-fi horror movie. I'm shocked that we're even actually facing something this daunting. But here's the key. First, you need to be aware of what's going on. Like I said, most people are completely unaware of the end game that globalists have in mind. Second, you cannot be afraid. Fear is more powerful than any system that can be put in place. It is the state of mind that tyrants use to keep masses in control. This system can only be put in place if the people are afraid and complacent. We cannot accept this future. We must focus on love, hope, inspiration, and liberty, and not fear or anger. This is not a battle against globalists. This is a mission of liberty. We have to stop the spread of digital IDs and get off of big tech. We have to think of our futures as well as the future generations to come. You cannot be complacent out of laziness. You cannot be complacent out of fear. And now more than ever, you need to take the steps to exit the surveillance state. The key is, do not comply with illegal laws. During COVID lockdowns, freedom lovers all over the world did not comply. They refused mask mandates, they refused lockdowns, and they refused mandatory vaccines. It's vital that we understand what this system is before they try to put it in place. It's like the COVID jab. Once you have taken it, it's very hard to undo. But the difference is the future of digital IDs can be much more serious than what happened during COVID. And you may scoff when I say that, but COVID lockdowns are a walk in the park compared to the future that can exist with digital IDs. It is a future of slavery and no liberty. We the people need to be proactive in protecting our liberty. We cannot wait until tyranny is in full effect to stand up and say, this is enough. We need to stop it before it even starts. So go out, have conversations about this topic with your friends and family, spread the word far and wide, because this is the issue of our generation. Now we'll take a deep dive into how the governments around the world will use this system to train you like a dog. As I already mentioned, in China there are 3 major forms of punishment. All of these forms of punishment result in isolation: financial isolation, geographic isolation, and social isolation. And I also think there's a hidden 4th form of isolation. That isolation is information isolation. And I'm sure you've heard of censorship and propaganda before, and I'm sure you understand why they're so bad and dangerous. But do you understand how information shapes your reality? Information is needed to make decisions. Simply put, you can only take the opportunities that you're aware of. And more than that, your frame of reference to reality is based off of the information that you consume. The more information is controlled, silenced, and stifled, the more power seekers have access to shape your worldview and ultimately your reality. The final shackle they want to put in place is not on your body, but in your mind. With a social credit system, you will be punished for reading anything that goes against the mainstream agenda. That is, if you're even able to find anything that goes against it. Even worse, if you post anything against the mainstream agenda, you will be punished even worse. Narratives and free speech will die under this level of control. Free speech is what allowed us to get out of the Dark Ages. This is exactly where they want to put us back to. So yes, that is the first form of punishment. This punishment will happen across the board to those who comply and those who don't. What about the people who are deemed criminals by the government? And when I say criminal, please understand how loosely defined that term is. Think back to what I said earlier about tyrants like Hitler, Stalin, Mussolini, and Mao, and how they would define the word criminal. In other words, what about the people who do not do what the state wishes them to do? Well, first, there will be financial isolations. If you go against the agenda, you will be punished financially. At first, it could fine you for your actions. Maybe you do something wrong, for example. Maybe you speed while driving. And we already know that actions like this come with a fine. So it's not a stretch for them to say, if you get caught speeding, you will instantly lose money and it will be drained from your bank account. No right to a fair or speedy trial, just immediate blind punishment. And let's take it a step further. Let's say that the state is upset because you're not following their carbon score guidelines. In this example, let's say you're buying too much red meat. Then they can lock your payments down, that way you're not able to purchase more red meat. Or even worse, let's say that you disagree with the state and you actively write negative comments and messages about it. Then your bank account can get frozen. You can get fired from your job or a pay deduction. Maybe your business will get restricted, or you will find it even harder to get a job. Even worse, your entire account may be drained in seconds. This is what financial isolation means in their system. But this is just one form of isolation that they use as punishment. The next form is geographical isolation. Let's say that you're deemed negative to society. You have lost so many social credit points, and now you can no longer buy plane tickets, train tickets, or leave the country. Now you cannot drive your car outside of city limits, and you cannot take buses outside of the city. And let's say you want to go incognito mode. Even if you do not bring a phone, your face will be recognized with one of the 200 million facial recognition cameras all throughout China if you try to leave the city by foot. This will cause further punishment. This can go all the way to actual house arrest. They want to take away your autonomy and freedom as much as possible. This is the geographical isolation of a social credit system. Now, the final form of isolation that I've not yet mentioned is the worst one: social isolation. Power seekers know that community and family units are the backbone of self-reliance. The state fears them and wants them weak, because without family, you are dependent on the state. In a social credit system, your actions do not just harm you, they harm the people that you love. This was also seen in communist China. Mao labeled people he deemed as conservative as having black identities. These black identities affected every part of your life, but even worse, if you were a parent, your children were also given black identities as a punishment. This means that your children would not be accepted into good schools, good jobs, or be allowed good futures because of your actions. Even worse, with the social credit system that exists today, they are blacklisting people. That means if you find yourself on the blacklist, none of your friends or family can contact you. If someone does try to contact you, they will be alerted with a notification letting them know that you're on the blacklist, and by contacting you, they will receive negative social credit points. So by disobeying the state's agenda, you will be stripped of all the things that allow you to be a human and interact in society. All dissidents will be forced into a prison of isolation, and the threat of this will loom over everyone who complies. And this might seem quite unbelievable or like it could never happen, but let me remind you, they have this system in place. Now with AI, the internet could be heavily censored. They could lock down the internet so that you can only access it by using a digital ID. They're installing facial recognition cameras at record speeds. And when the flip is switched, it isn't just as easy as just saying no. With their control, you can scream as loud as you want, but it would be like screaming in an empty hallway. And even if you are able to talk to people, the looming threat would be so powerful that many would refuse to listen. In fact, not only would they not listen to you, there's a chance that they would report you. For the last 3 years, I've spent a lot of time in Hungary. I love it here and I love the people, but the reason I bring it up is because they used to live in communism here. I've heard countless stories from people here about what communism was like. One of the common things that I've heard people say is that you could not trust your neighbor or your friends. All it would take is one small slip up and they would report you to the government. Not large things, but really small, minute things like leaving your trash can out for too long or parking crooked. This is not what I saw growing up in America. In general, people let people live and do not like reporting stuff unless it's really dangerous or a blatant crime. I believe that this happens because they were placed in a society where people were rewarded for snitching to the government and punished for not reporting. Now, I'm not putting any shade on Hungary or Hungarians. Instead, I want to point out what communism or totalitarianism does to people. Many people think that we can fix this after it's in place, but you will be isolated even from those closest to you. Everyone will switch to preserving their self-interest because they feel powerless and that they can't trust anyone anymore. It's a really depressing existence. In fact, it is almost impossible for us to understand what a true system of tyranny looks like because we have lived in such freedom and prosperity for our entire lives. The reality will be much more different than people imagine. Not only have they been deceitful in setting up this system in the West, but they have also manipulated people socially and culturally to prime them for this system. During COVID and the BLM protest, I firsthand saw people calling companies encouraging them to fire their workers who were not supporting of COVID or BLM. This was not pushed by the state. This was the free will of people who felt so passionately about this that they spent their own time to damage other people's lives simply for the difference of opinion. They were not forced, they were not coerced, besides, through mass media brainwashing. So imagine what it would be like if these people were placed in a society that rewarded them for that behavior or punished them for that behavior. And yes, you might say that's the loud minority. Well, the silent majority has been silent in times when it was needed to be loud. What makes you think that they can or will be loud when a system is placed on them that will quite literally ruin every aspect of their life for speaking up? Now is the only time. Now before it's too late. If you're too afraid to speak up now, you have already bent the knee and surrendered your mind to fear. Do you really want to live in a world of slavery? Do you want that world for your future generations? The answer is not radical. The answer is not violent or ugly. It's love and firmly protecting your liberties. I'm not at war with big tech or big brother. I see what they're trying to do, but I do not let them affect my life. Instead, I focus on freedom, love, and inspiration. I feel inspired to spread this message, and I'm not afraid of what comes because I have faith. I suggest that you also find faith and stand up for truth before it's too late. Do not act out of fear. Do not fear reality that doesn't exist. And don't let it happen either. We have been blessed with our lives. We are blessed to have experienced a time of such prosperity. Many humans have never known freedom or prosperity the way that we do. The tyrants and power seekers are good at what they do. They are good at manipulating reality and hiding truth. But regardless of their actions, no matter how hard they try, truth remains ultimate. It is not something that can be changed. Truth is the essence of all life. All power seekers can do is blind you. Do not let that happen. The power seekers underestimate one key thing. It is the key part to all parts of life, and that is love. These psychopaths are so caught up in their games that they don't understand what love is. That's why they're never able to understand how powerful love is. They will do everything they can to crush you and your worldview. You must find your own faith and listen to only love and inspiration to protect liberty. We've been trained to slowly trade our freedom for convenience, and many people will not understand this until it's too late. This will continue until the world has completely shifted into something that we've never seen before. Digital totalitarianism, AI-assisted judgment, and persecution of people at all times for every action without fair and speedy trial. We're seeing attacks all over the world on freedom of speech. This is just the start. Trudeau's trucker convoy and UK's arrests over tweets are just a glimpse into the future we may witness. Friends, family, and society will be turned against each other. People who are brave enough to speak up will be instantly silenced, and all forms of liberty and life will be stripped from them instantaneously. Instead of living a life of choice and having freedom of thought, we will be forced to live a path that is carved for us by faceless, nameless, self-appointed tyrants. The social credit system is the death of freedom and liberty. So the million-dollar question, is it too late? Have we blindly become too complacent and walked into a trap? No, if that were true, you wouldn't even be able to see a message like this. It's not over. In fact, we have a framework for freedom that is unlike any that history has ever seen before. Let me explain. Propaganda, censorship, and power games have existed as long as humans have. Even kids lied to each other at the playground and spread rumors. The game hasn't changed, it's just the means that has changed. Books have been removed, people have been killed, and dictators have existed all throughout time. I mean, for the last 100 years, you probably watched mainstream news and read mainstream books. You read the newspapers and didn't have access to something called the internet. Now, even though the internet was designed specifically for this purpose, we have a medium to spread through globally. Before AI or any of these systems were really put into place, we're able to communicate freely. We're able to transact online and purchase things that we would never have been able to do in the past. So is technology the enemy? No, I don't think we should focus on the enemy. Instead, we should just be aware that technology is currently being developed against us. With that said, I believe that we can adapt this technology and use it to our own benefit. In fact, there is a ginormous privacy community that is focused on creating decentralized, powerful alternatives to all big tech platforms. A lot of people think that it's too late or there's nothing that they can do. Or I hear people say, well, my information's already out there, what's the point of getting private? It's absolutely not too late to get private. It's all about cutting the flow of data off. Power seekers need to have a constant feed to you. That's how they're able to manipulate you. They want to know what you read, what you like, where you go, who you're friends with, and so on. And by cutting off that flow of data, you are taking away the power that they have over you. You can get de-Googled private phones. You can use private messengers. You can use private browsers, VPNs, and private routers. You can use private computers. Every aspect of the digital world is being adapted for freedom and privacy. It is essential that we all start moving away from big tech brands and rather focus on private and freedom-based alternatives. This is the power of the free market, and this is essential to protecting our freedoms. I have a private phone and a private computer. I can do everything that everyone else does, and it's not lacking in power. You also do not need to be tech savvy to do this. The key is knowing how to do this. If you try to do all of this on your own, there's a big chance that you'll get overwhelmed or lost. You need to have a plan and guidance. That's exactly why my father and I created Privacy Academy specifically for this reason. We didn't just want to spread awareness about this issue, we wanted to give people actual solutions to what's going on. And before I tell you more, I want to say that the whole point of this video or series is not just a long sales pitch. If you do not want to get private or you do not feel passionate about protecting your liberty, here's a timestamp where you can skip to avoid hearing me talk about your next privacy steps. If you're serious about leaving a legacy of freedom for your children, then the most powerful thing you can do is dedicate some of your time to getting private and using non-big tech services. Privacy is an endless rabbit hole that you can go down, but the key is taking step by step, that way you feel confident in yourself. We are the first and best rated online program for people who want to get private and secure. We have pre-recorded courses, multiple live weekly trainings, events, and very full chat rooms that are moderated by our privacy experts. Privacy Academy is not just a business for my father and I. It is a mission of freedom. I'm genuinely touched and inspired by the wonderful community we've grown. We've taught over 100,000 people about the surveillance state and how to get private. I'd love to see you in the community, and I really encourage you to get private and support privacy and freedom-oriented businesses. I hope you can see the potential future that we're facing and feel inspired to take your freedom back. If you do, go to privacyacademy.com and sign up today. Finally, I want to touch base on one more really key point. Changing technology is not the end-all be-all. If we abolish the Federal Reserve, then the power seekers will fill that slot with an equally evil organization. The only solution would be going back to sound money. The same thing could be said for privacy and technology. If we got rid of Google, another Google would fill its spot. Big tech companies specialize in locking you in their ecosystem, in what really is a digital monopoly. The key to freedom and technology relies on 1. Open source technology, 2. Privacy respecting technology, and 3. The ability to switch off of it. We do not like recommending any all-in-one solutions. It's never a good idea to put all of your eggs in one basket or all of your trust in one person or an organization. We need to build a decentralized future that is flexible, and we cannot rely on technology to be our savior. My great-grandfather built his own house with his hands. Nowadays, most people are not able to think for themselves because they're too busy using AI. Aside from switching to privacy and freedom-oriented technology, we have to focus on ourselves as people. We need to be skeptical and diligent. We need to teach our younger generation how to critically think. We need to understand that technology is a tool, but it can be very dangerous. I've seen many of my friends become akin to drug addicts with technology. Nowadays, it seems like the real modern luxury is being able to log off and be in nature. And if we do not fix this trend, we will lose our grounding in what makes us human. There are many fronts that we need to fix, and let me leave you with one final thought. I mentioned that we have entered a new age, an information age. And military spending is used for things like AI specifically because we're in the age of information wars and not so much physical ones anymore. In America, our founding fathers recognized the Second Amendment of the Constitution as a vital right to freedom. I believe that this is the key reason that tyrants have to operate so slowly in America. Guns have the potential to kill. They are the great equalizer. Our founding fathers knew that guns were essential to allow people to overthrow tyrannical governments, and without them, they would be powerless to evil. Now this fact only exists if people actually exercise their right to keep guns. Otherwise, it would be words on a paper and completely meaningless. The right to privacy is akin to having guns in the information age. Even if the government says things like, we're banning CBDCs or digital IDs, it doesn't mean that it's over. We must act out of self-responsibility to ensure our freedom. We cannot trust governments or big tech corporations to respect our freedoms. In privacy, we must act out of zero trust for big corporations and governments. We must utilize only open source projects that allow individual researchers to go in and verify that what they're doing is true. We have entered a new age, and it is essential that we understand the new dangers and responsibilities. I want to thank you for watching this series and educating yourself on what goes behind the scenes. I encourage you to do your own research and also have conversations with other people. Like I said, we have a framework that allows for freedom and a framework that allows for tyranny. While some people may be afraid of this fact, I'm excited. When in history have we had such a clear chance to change the tide, to regain a level of freedom that has never existed before? And although power seekers are speeding up their actions, more and more people are becoming aware each day. Do not be afraid of a future that doesn't exist. Instead, act out of love and inspiration to protect our liberty. Thank you very much for your time.